Hey everyone, it's that guy over there bringing you another Codex review. Maybe I should stop calling it a Codex review because we're past the main Codex. We are into the actual supplements titled Rising Leviathan, and there's um, three supplements in total, and we'll go over each of those in turn. And in this video, we're specifically going to focus in on Rising Leviathan 1. I think Leviathan Rising. Leviathan Rising 1, which is uh, that each one has a theme, and the first one is the theme of like the Infiltrators. So there's a lot of Gene Stealers and Lictor formations in this one. So I'll try to keep that on the focus too. So in the event that you're looking not to buy like one of everything, you're just trying to figure out the things that will, which supplement will um, allow you to do what you want to do with your models, and we'll focus in on that as well. So I'll take some time when I get to each of these. We've talked through the units, so in the Codex review, so I have a little more leeway to now talk through how I would use these in a game or what my recommendations are for these. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and start with the Lictor Forest Brood. The Lictor Forest Brood is a formation with lictors. It's not very helpful. It's like faction Tyranids. Lictor Forest Brood formation consists of the following units. One Lictor Forest Brood. It's like, great. What does this mean? Okay, so Lictor Forest Brood contains 5 lictors. So it is one model or one unit of 5 lictors. All models in this formation are single brood, even though this is a larger number of models than are normally allowed in a single lictor brood. And it has one special rule called Deadly Fruit. Deadly Fruit is models from this formation that are within a forest have the Shrouded special rule instead of the Stealth special rule. In addition, models from this formation that are deployed within a forest using the Infiltrate special rule can be set up within 6 inches of an enemy model. Shrouded, basically it replaces their +1 to their cover save with +2. So generally in a 5+ cover, say, piece of terrain, they would have a 3+ cover. Which is nice. Not sure how worth it this is. A lot of Lictor's strengths lie in the fact that they can be taken as single models, and taking them all as one unit. It's kind of fun, and honestly, I find that a lot of tables don't include forests, and I'm not sure. Maybe the tabletop at your game store or where you play has forests, but I would just be worried that you wouldn't be able to. Setting up within 6 inches is pretty powerful. However, they phrase this rule poorly. So normally, if they can see you, you have to deploy 18 inches away when you infiltrate. If they can't see you, like they can't draw a line of sight, then it can be 12 inches. But if you're within a forest, you can be within 6 inches of an enemy model. But it's kind of awkward because if you can't, like if you're 6 inches away from one unit, but within 12 or even 18 of somebody else that can see you, it's like you have to either be within 6 inches of everybody or outside of that, is the way I interpret it. And so it would be really hard to place these guys. They should have said less. You can be set up with less than 12 inches away if you're within a forest. Because you've got this between 6 inches and 12 inches or 18 inches where you don't, or you can be set a minimum of 1 inch away or something like that, just to be a little more clear. And I would just expect people to be arguing that kind of stuff with you. And it's kind of systemic with a lot of these formations that allow you to deploy real close, is that within 6 inches and outside of 12 are different rules, right? So you've got a window where, if you're 8 inches away, it doesn't work. So it's kind of cool because if you had Catalyst or something, you could cast it on them and then they would all benefit from it. And it's just kind of awesome to have like a legitimate squad of lictors. But this thing's 300 points, and it would probably be better just to take 5 singles than one big unit, unless you're trying to save on kill points for some reason. Next, we have Manufactorum Gene Stealers. This formation is 5 Gene Stealer broods, and the broods may not include any additional Gene Stealers. Now, that does not say anything about Broodlords, so I would play it as if you can add a Broodlord to every unit if you want to. And honestly, I just play it that way. That's how rules is written. It should work. That being said, you do not necessarily have to do that because Broodlords sometimes are not necessarily worth the points. So let's see. I'm just pulling up some points here. The Gene. So I played a game once where I had 85 Gene Stealers on the table, and it was I was playing against Necrons, and you know how Necrons can be with all their saves. I was able to actually run down some squads. That was pretty effective, I thought. But I think if I played more with the list, it'd be better. But what I did is I think I had 2 of these Manufactorum Gene Stealer broods, and then no, I had 1 of these, 1 CAD, and 1 High Fleet Detachment because we were playing with the rules that you can't duplicate formations or sources or whatever. So this one I've got pulled up is 350 points base. I always take Gene Stealers with Adrenal Glands, which bumps it up to 400 points even. And the rules that they come with are hit and run. So every single one of them has hit and run. With initiative 6, that's really good because only on a 6 will you ever fail. And with hit and run, I like to use it to run through a unit. So like you charge in, you fight, and then on their turn you fight again. And then the survivors, you can hit and run through the unit and then hit something behind them that's probably not geared for close combat. And they're really good at it with initiative 6. And then they have the rule unsuspected, which again is kind of messed up because it says models from this formation that are deployed within a building or ruins using the infiltrate special rule can be set up within 6 inches of an enemy model. Again, within 6 inches or outside of 12 if they can't be seen, or outside of 18 if they can be seen. And so you've got this awkward moment when you're like 8 inches away from something you can't set up there. So just be advised that that is a potential outcome, and you'll be all right. These guys are really great for forcing your opponent to cluster up on the building. So when I played against those Necrons, he centered his whole army and just filled a building, so that way I couldn't deploy there, and that trapped him in a corner. And then I was able to kind of close in around him. Now he had 6 of the bikes that shot out the strength 6 AP4 ignores cumber templates, and they just were getting the best scatters you could imagine. So it was like 1 or 2 would hit the brood he was shooting at, but the other 2 would like scatter off to other broods, and he was just killing multiple broods with his, insanely lucky templates. So it wasn't really the best example, but you can really swarm over somebody with little 5-man broods of Gene Stealers, and somebody could probably figure out a way to make it work better than I did, but you just have a lot of bodies, and having that's 13 units of Gene Stealers running around, and you just can't kill them all. Gene Stealers with Adrenal Glands are one of the only things in the Codex that can mathematically kill anything, to include Night Titans and Wraith Knights. And I mentioned it before where it takes 27 on the charge if they have Adrenal Glands to kill a Wraith Knight or Imperial Knight before they get to strike, and then it takes 33 to kill a Wraith Knight on the charge, because 6 is Rend, and you can potentially damage armor 13. So yeah, this one's okay. I would consider taking it just to make your opponent make some poor deployment decisions. Just not sure if that's worth 350 points. They do not get objectives secured because they're a formation. They're not part of your CAD. Death Leaper Assassin Brood. This is probably my favorite formation, just in general, because I really like Lictor's. Death Leaper, back when he was an elite choice, was my all-time favorite, and he had like a page of rules. Like he could disappear and then reappear somewhere else on the table, and if they were within 12 inches, you rolled one less, or you would roll 2 dice and take the lowest when you'd go through terrain. So basically, like if they rolled 2 dice and they rolled a 2 and a 4, they would take away the 4 and just move 2 because they were trying to figure out where he was. He had so many cool rules. You had to roll 2d6 and then divide it by 2, and that was how far you could see him. So if you wanted to shoot at him, you rolled those 2 dice, figured out how far away he was, and then if the range didn't equal that, then you couldn't shoot at him. So like las cannons across the table, he was just invincible against. Now he has snapshots against him and everything, but he used to be really, really cool. But anyway, I get too carried away. So it's Death Leaper and his assassin posse. So it's a Death Leaper and 5 Lictor Broods. Lictor Broods in this formation are individual units, each consisting of a single model. So again, this is kind of what makes it better than the Forest Brood, is not only do you get Death Leaper outside of your CAD, because you're trying to save those headquarter choices for Hive Tyrants, but it's him and 5 Lictors. So if you were taking 3 single Lictors in your list, now you've got 8 Lictors and Death Leaper. And this formation clocks in at 380 points. Right, because the Forest Brood, I have to take that back, is 250 points. I said 300 because I thought it was 6 for some reason, but it's 5. Each one's 50 points. So yeah, you get all these Lictors running around, which is great, except that they have instinctive behavior lurk, and so they'll randomly run away when you fail your instinctive behavior test. Formation special rules. This is where it gets good. So this is paranoia and ill discipline. Enemy units within 12 inches of one or more models from this formation suffer -1 leadership to their -1 penalty to their leadership characteristic. So not only do you get the Death Leapers -D3 to a character, they also get -1 if they're within 12 inches of a model. And then they get preferred enemy characters and independent characters. So they're supposed to go in and pick off characters, but preferred enemy, the way it's worded now, is that you get, if a unit contains one or more of the model type, you get to reroll 1s to hit and to wound. So that means a tactical squad with a sergeant in it, you get to reroll all your attacks and everything because it contains a unit. If think of any combination, you get it against the whole unit. And then because they're single models, they have to pick them off individually, and they can infiltrate, and single models are a lot easier to infiltrate than a big brood of them, and they're a ton of fun to play, and they're really cheap, 380 points. For what you get, that mass disruption is pretty key, and probably my favorite formation. Not to say it's the most effective, but it is fun, and really, when you're starting to focus like pinning checks and morale checks, -1 leadership really matters. And the Death Leaper, if you make him your warlord, because you're like risking the Hive Tyrants, the Death Leaper can run around, and if he kills enemies and characters and challenges, because now he has preferred enemy, you get like 2 victory points or something for killing them, which is nice. So big thumbs up for that one. Broodlord's Hunting Pack. This is 3 Genestealer Broods. 1 Genestealer Brood must include a Broodlord. Only 1 Broodlord can be taken in this formation. So that's kind of a weird limitation, but it's him. Basically, Broodlord's leading a hunting party to go hunt down something. So their formation special rules are hidden beneath the city. And is loading. This one, by the way, is 270 points base. Units from this formation that arrive from reserve can be set up in a building, unoccupied building. So like if your opponent has some kind of fortress that they didn't put anybody inside, you could go inside of it when they come from reserves. Alternatively, they can be set up in ruins terrain as long as they are set up more than 6 inches away from enemy models. This is really good. More than 6 inches away is different than the infiltrate rules and doesn't conflict. So whereas the Manufactorum Genestealers is like kind of like the alpha strike, I'm going to deploy in your building unless you do something. This is kind of the beta strike, where if you don't stay in that building, these guys are going to pop out of the building or the ruins or whatever it is. So, even up till now, I really hadn't thought of it that way. And you could like pop in somewhere, do the horror from the Broodlord to try to pin something and go about it that way. This one's pretty neat. So, and they can be minimum size broods, hence the 270 points. And they might affect your opponent's deployment even more than your Manufactorum Gene Stealers. They have a hunting pack, which means they select an enemy unit. When the Broodlord is deployed, all models from this formation have the preferred enemy special rule against models from the nominated enemy unit. So they're kind of like the Yamaral Gene Stealers, where they hop up and then you can get preferred enemy against specific units, which helps. Getting preferred enemy passed around is really helpful. The last formation in this one is the Gargoyle Bio Bombs. This one is kind of stupid, actually. The idea is that these gargoyles are like carrying spore mines, but gargoyles are not really all that scary, and spore mines are not really like actually meant to be used as weapons. I'll talk about them later when I talk about my Galaga list. But these guys, they're okay. So let's just talk about what it is. So it's a Gargoyle Bio Bomb formation consists of the following units: 3 spore mine clusters, 3 gargoyle broods. You get this for 225 points. 225 points, like that's pretty significant. Wings of Death. If a spore mine cluster from this formation starts a move within, including a run or charge move within 6 inches of a gargoyle from this formation, then the spore mine cluster can move 6 inches if it is in the movement phase and does not have the distance rolled if it runs or charges. So basically, they move normally within 6 inches of gargoyles. So, but not that that's really, I don't know. It's kind of silly. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one because I've literally never seen it, and I have absolutely no desire to run this formation. Just because it's just kind of weird, you know, because gargoyles move 12, and now these guys are like trying to keep up with them, and I don't know, kind of silly. So anyway, that concludes the first part of the series, doing the Rising Leviathan 1, and the key takeaways. I'm telling you, the Death Leaper Assassination Brood is fun. So much fun, and it's a good way to get Death Leaper outside of the headquarters. And then I'm still trying to work on Gene Stealer lists, or just incorporating one of these 2 formations to make my opponent bunch up. That's kind of something I've been working towards, is kind of controlling my opponent's deployment phase. And something like the Manufactorum Brood that sets up inside of buildings, or this Broodlord's Hunting Pack, where it forces you to cluster up, would work great with infiltrating units, because then you can kind of infiltrate on the flanks and be in their deployment zone. And Molochs, because they'll cluster up and then you can drop in on them. So yeah, it's kind of the mind games supplement, and I really like that. So this was the most competitive formations came out of later books, but this one's my favorite because these are the ones I wanted to be good, and they're not necessarily the greatest now after these, but they give you a unique way of playing it, and it's kind of like giving somebody a knife. You know, it's not as scary as a gun, but in some ways it might be more scary because you don't know where it's coming from, you don't know when it's coming, and you know, it allows you to play the mind games. So anyway, that's all I have. Please like, comment, subscribe, and let me know what you think about these formations, and give me some more ideas if you want to see stuff posted. So thanks for your time.